So, today I want to talk about one of the most hidden avoidant traits that people have. And it isn't always the case that this always applies to the dismissive avoidant, but it can. But it's one of these things that keeps you from really being able to spot when someone is an avoidant. And it's the conflict avoidant part of people. So let's remember that attachment style is very much a sliding scale. And then we also have all this other programming that contributes to the way we show up. And it contributes to our own protective functions. And so these traits can show up in someone who isn't maybe classic dismissive avoidant, but it's one of the most toxic behaviors and ruins relationships in a silent way. So this is really important to know. And if you're new here, I'm Ketra Thompson. And what I do with my clients is I combine several modalities: hypnotherapy, mindset coaching, relationship coaching, attachment style coaching, into a process where we can actually go back on a subconscious level and reframe that subconscious programming that's driving your unwanted behaviors, and it's creating those protective functions so that you can finally create a life and love that you want. So if you'd like to learn more, you can check out the link in the description below, or you can set up a consultation call and you and I can chat and we can get to the heart of what's going on with you, because everyone's story is unique and you deserve unique, customized, personalized help for processing and reframing all of those subconscious beliefs. And as always, if this content resonates with you, I really appreciate it if you click like and subscribe so you can be notified every time I post a new video. Okay, so let's talk about the conflict avoidant behavior. That's pretty explanatory. These are the people who avoid conflict, but it goes deeper than that. And so sometimes, if this is a dismissive avoidant has this, they can very much be sort of like if they're male, they can be kind of a feminine DA. And what happens when that's the case is that you think they're quite emotionally available. They are willing to let you talk about your feelings. They are willing to share things about their past. They are oftentimes involved in spiritual practices and healing practices, which is great. And that in and of itself is not some sign, but it tends to be something that is part of what they're doing. And the thing is, they rarely talk about how they feel about you. They might talk about their past frustrations, but they don't talk about how they feel about you. And they don't go deep with you. And they kind of like to get the spotlight off them and onto the other person. And so if it's something that's in the past that just they can talk about, that isn't stressful for them. What's stressful is actually sharing their needs. And so two things are kind of happening. First of all, they don't know what their needs are. They are not tuned in. And so they don't express their needs because they don't know what they are. And even if they have like an idea of what they aren't saying it to their spouse. They aren't saying, here's how I feel, here's what I need. And sometimes they say they're, married to someone who's overbearing or a bully, and so they just avoid. But sometimes that's just their perception because they don't feel comfortable with being clear and direct because they don't know what they're going to get from the other person. And the other person has been so conditioned to them being a people pleaser, them kind of being a yes man or woman, this could be either, that they just automatically assume that everyone's on the same page. So the shock when they do speak up or say something catches their partner off guard because they aren't used to it. They're used to them being a people pleaser, and they didn't realize they were a people pleaser. They just thought that they agreed with them on everything, that they were both on the same page. And so they don't even have the awareness that their spouse has been doing this. And so what happens is when we don't identify our needs and we don't express those needs in a healthy and constructive way, we start to get very resentful, very shut down. And that resentment builds and it creates the mental narrative that I've talked about before. And so there's several things going on inside. There is this avoidance of conflict because they simply don't want to rock the boat. But think about like the little kid in them that doesn't want to get in trouble. Like, have you ever known someone who just lies about stupid things? Just things that don't matter at all. But there's this little kid in them that's like, I can't take any risk of being chastised or in trouble. And it's an unconscious feeling and belief that is happening. And so they lie about dumb things. Now, that's not necessarily the case for the conflict avoidant. They don't always just lie about stupid stuff. But not only do they sometimes do that, they also omit information. So an omission of important information is also a lie. They don't say what they need. They don't say what they feel, or they don't give all the details because they don't want to have this conflict. And it's a very much like unhealed part of their childhood programming, of their attachment style, all of it. And because of this, they kill more marriages probably than anything else, in my opinion, because their silence is deadly. It's growing poison inside of them. Every time they feel like they're giving more than they're getting, like they are not appreciated, that they aren't getting their needs met, and they aren't giving their partner the chance to rise to the occasion. They're shutting down, they're pulling away, they are distance making in their behaviors, and they're turning cold toward their partner. And they don't show many signs of this because they just keep going through the motions until it's so intense that they absolutely burn everything to the ground to get away. It's like their subconscious mind is trying to find a way to solve the problem for them. And in the process, this creates a ton of self-sabotage. And so they do things that they can't come back from. Sometimes those are affairs, but not always. This is kind of the people pleaser. So typically it's that they just cannot do it anymore. They fixate on one thing that they want to complain about and they file for divorce. They leave. They want to sell everything. They don't want any more responsibility. It's like a full-on emotional, mental burnout. And they don't pick up on the signs of it early. And their partner doesn't pick up on the signs of it because they're not communicating. And all of a sudden, there's just this explosion of them being totally uncharacteristic in their behavior and what they're doing. And their partner's left just going, what is this? Who are you? What happened? And so it's really important that this kind of person who's conflict avoidant learns how to identify their feelings. And even the partners who are married, let's say, to this people pleaser, they probably also are not tuned in to their needs in a way that is cultivating conversation and depth and connection because they are happy and content with the status quo. And so there's a little bit of this on both sides sometimes. But when they don't know how to express their needs, here's what's happening. So when we're born, our first language is feelings. It is not words. And if you're a baby and you have a wet diaper and you want a diaper change, you know what you need, even though you don't have words to express it. So let's say someone gives you a bottle instead of changes your diaper, like you're probably just gonna, that baby's gonna move their head like, no, I don't want this bottle. I want a diaper change. It knows what it wants, even though it can't say it, because your feelings are your guidance system. They are telling you what you need. They're giving you information so you can act on it and meet the need. And so as we grow up, we get dismissed. Our feelings get dismissed. We get told that, it's no big deal. Get over it. Who cares? Or we don't get attended to when we're hurting. And because of that, we get disconnected from what our feelings are telling us. And so what happens is we don't stop having the feelings. It doesn't totally shut down the feelings. They're there, but we don't know what to do about them because we have a crossed wire and we don't know what the need is anymore. So we get the feeling, we know it's uncomfortable, we know we don't like it, and then we turn to a coping mechanism. Distance making, emotional shutdown, drug use, alcohol, shopping, whatever. We numb or we stay super busy so we don't have to sit with those feelings because those feelings are kind of uncomfortable. We don't even know what they're telling us and we just want them to shut up. And the problem with that is we never understand and tune back into what our needs actually are, and we don't meet those needs in real time. And it's really important in the subconscious reprogramming process that we address that, because your feelings are really important. And not only do you need to be able to know what they're telling you, you need to be able to know how to meet your needs and act on it in real time. And you need to be able to deal with the fear belief underneath the surface that is keeping you from doing that because of your own fears of rejection, your fears of judgment, your fear of conflict. And so it's all subconscious work. And if you've watched me on here for any time, you know that the subconscious mind is controlling over 95% of everything you think, feel, and do. It is running the show, but you really don't have access to it, especially after the age of 7. And even then, when you do, it's typically not for the better. So in the hypnosis process, we have access to that subconscious mind, and we can actually do the deep reframing work that creates the long-lasting changes. Because if your subconscious mind is driving everything, which it is, and you don't have access to it, then you're not going to have long-term results with just consciously learning something new in your conscious mind. It has to have integration. And the repetition required for that integration is more than our willpower can handle for the most part. So it's really important to be able to do that subconscious work, which is what I do with my clients every single day. And it's such a profound experience. So I want to give you some actionable steps that you can do today that you can start dialing into that if you're not quite ready for that full subconscious work process yet. Start noticing every day what you're feeling and what you need, what would help you feel better in that day, and start trying to meet your needs. Next, you want to start expressing your needs to safe people, friends, family, people who are not going to trigger all that fear so you can practice. This is a really good way to move in that direction. And if you're trying to watch out for someone who doesn't understand their feelings and needs, who isn't willing to communicate, you need to be able to ask them, if you're in the dating process, deeper questions, things about them, personal things that matter in a relationship. Talk about, how do you resolve conflict? How do you regulate your emotions? How do you let your partner know when you need space? How do you communicate that? Be willing to have the tough conversations. And if they have no idea, then maybe have a conversation with them about how they could do that. It doesn't mean it's impossible, they'll never do it, but they have to be willing to look at themselves. If they aren't willing to be self-reflective and think about, wait, what are my patterns? What are the things that keep me stuck in this same way of being or attracting the same partners? And if they're not willing to look at that, then you're in trouble, because that means they're going to always put the spotlight on their partner, and they're going to deflect and they're going to project, and they're not going to spend time being truly self-reflective. And the other piece to that self-reflection is they need to be able to come back after that self-reflection, have a healthy discussion, and repair, and give you an actual action plan for what they plan to do in the future. And so it's really important that you have the ability to have those tough conversations, because if you feel afraid of that rejection, if you feel like you're pushing the envelope when you ask these things, if you feel like you're scaring them away, then you have those internal fears that have to be dealt with as well. So I hope this was helpful. As always, if you want to set up that consultation call so that you and I can chat and we can get deeper into this and we can get really clear on what you need, then set up that consultation call so that you and I can do that. And I also have my new program coming out, which is the Attachment Detox. And that is a program where we don't do one-on-one hypnotherapy together, but there is a hypnotherapy pre-recorded component to that program. A lot of really incredible stuff to help you really break those attachments that are not healthy to you. And it also does give you live coaching options with me. So it's a way to start the process if you're not ready for that full one-on-one 12-week sort of VIP program. You can start with the Attachment Detox. And so the details for that should be in the description below. If they're not already, they will be very, very soon. And as always, until next time, I hope you curate a life by your own design.